Let's try a pause. Give ourselves space to gain clarity. She said it while spreading apricot jam on her toast, like she was offering a second cup of coffee. Her tone was even, soft, too soft, and her phrasing had the unnatural roundness of something practiced in front of a mirror. I looked up from my phone, pretending to scroll, pretending not to register what she just said. A pause? I echoed. She nodded with a kind of serene finality. Just space. We've both been under stress. It's not a breakup. Just time to think clearly, without pressure. She smiled, and that smile, I think, is what finally snapped something in me. It wasn't nervous or forced. It was too composed, too ready. The kind of smile you wear when you've already rehearsed the outcome and are just waiting for your scene partner to say their lines. I nodded. I even managed a small smile of my own. Okay. If you think that's what we need. My voice didn't betray me, but my body did. I remember how tightly I gripped the edge of the table, the way my thumb dug into the groove in the wood we'd carved together on accident years ago when moving it in. Back when things were light. Back when we laughed about damaging furniture instead of relationships. She went on, like she was reciting a script she believed could win an Emmy for emotional balance. No lawyers, nothing messy. Just a reset. You can stay here this week, I'll go to the condo. After that we'll switch off for a bit. Keep things civil. Her language was polished, corporate, the vocabulary of someone who'd been coached, or worse, had coached herself for weeks. The condo. My condo. Technically ours, though I'd paid for it years ago as a rental investment. It had been sitting furnished, and used for months. Now I knew why she'd asked to refresh the decor. 2 weeks ago. She'd been nesting. I sipped my coffee to avoid responding too quickly. It was lukewarm now, the bitter edge more pronounced. Still I drank it. It gave me something to do with my mouth that wasn't asking the obvious. Who is he? Because there was someone else. I felt it in the way her eyes didn't linger on mine the way they used to, how her movements had grown slower, more deliberate, as if everything was being staged. Even her silence seemed edited for dramatic pause. I think we'll both be better for it, she added, rising from the table to rinse her plate. No trace of emotion in her voice. No sadness, just efficiency. I didn't answer. I didn't trust myself to. Instead, I watched her shoulders, the way they didn't sag or tense. I listened to the water running over porcelain. I noted how she didn't look back when she left the room. And just like that, our morning ritual, 12 years of shared silence over breakfast, of coffee and toast and light jokes about the day ahead, collapsed under the weight of a single sentence. She didn't ask for a break because she was confused. She asked for it because she was already somewhere else, mentally and emotionally, probably physically too. She just needed me out of the way long enough for her story to hold. But I didn't push. Not yet. Pushing gives away your suspicion. And suspicion, when well managed, is leverage. That night, I stayed in the house. She packed a weekender bag and left without a hug, without a lingering glance. I watched from the window as her taillights disappeared down the street. I should have felt grief. I should have panicked, begged, called someone. Instead, I felt something colder, heavier. I'd seen enough exit strategies in business to recognize one when it was presented calmly across a breakfast table. This wasn't confusion. It was preparation. And now, so was I. The first crack came quiet. A receipt, folded once, lying face down in the center console of her SUV like an afterthought. I wasn't searching. Not then. I needed to move her car to make room for the contractor's van. That's it. Her spare key still hung from the hook by the door, where it had been since she left for the condo. I opened the door, slid into the driver's seat, and immediately something felt off. It wasn't the seat position or the mirrors. She always adjusted those. It was the scent. Familiar, yes, lavender, a hint of citrus, but beneath it, something heavier. Masculine. Not mine. I froze. You don't notice a scent like that unless it doesn't belong. And this one definitely didn't. I told myself not to overreact. Maybe it was from the gym. Maybe a cologne ad in a magazine she'd picked up. I clung to those weak rationalizations because the alternatives twisted in my gut like a cold knot tightening. The gym bag on the back seat was unzipped. A bottle of dry shampoo spilled halfway out. No towel. No shoes. Just a folded tank top and a small cologne sampler, the kind you get at high-end stores. Not a women's brand. I adjusted the rearview mirror and caught my own eyes. I looked tired. Older than I remembered. My hand moved instinctively to the center console to grab the garage remote. Instead, I found the receipt. Hotel Franklin, downtown. 1 night stay. Room 708. Valet. 2 glasses of Merlot, a charcuterie plate, 1 dessert, and this is what made my fingers go numb. A $52 charge labeled personal comfort amenities. The date was last Thursday. She had told me she was home that night. Wellness night, she'd called it. She sent me a photo, her feet up on the couch, a blanket wrapped around them, a mug of tea in the foreground. Taking your advice. Finally slowing down. I'd responded like an idiot. Proud of you. Rest well. Love you. My name was on the receipt. My card. Her signature. At first I thought it was a mistake, maybe an old charge, but no. The timestamp matched the night she sent the text. While I'd been on a late call and microwaving leftovers, she was downtown, wrapping herself in luxury I didn't know we were paying for. I stared at the slip of paper until the numbers blurred. Then I folded it with slow precision and tucked it into my wallet behind my license, not because I needed to hide it, but because I knew I'd need to look at it again, with clearer eyes. On the drive back, I noticed the second phone charger, identical to the one she always used, still in its packaging. No receipt, but the store sticker was fresh. It lay next to an empty gum wrapper and a neatly folded napkin. She didn't need a second charger. She'd never lost the first. Later that evening, she texted, "Thinking of you tonight. I know this space is hard, but I really believe it'll help us. Miss you. Miss me," while her fingers typed from the same room she shared with someone else. I replied, "I think about you too. Let me know if you need anything from the house." I spent that night at the kitchen counter, staring at the lines in the wood we'd once tried to stain away. Years ago, we'd dropped a heavy bowl, and the groove it left had turned into a running joke. We used to say the house was aging with us, leaving its own scars. Now, the scars felt more personal. I opened our photo albums, the ones we hadn't touched in years. She always said we'd update them when things slowed down. Pages of ski trips, beach walks, birthday dinners. Her face, smiling in my arms, felt like someone else's life. I looked at the way she leaned into me in those pictures, and wondered, when did that change? When did she start leaning somewhere else? And if I asked her now, would she even remember those nights the same way I did? But I didn't ask. Not then. Asking too soon gives away power. It's the mistake most people make when the ground begins to crack. They throw themselves into the pit without checking how deep it goes. Not me. That's when I made a decision. No more guessing. No emotional appeals. No fights. No surveillance software or confrontational drama. Just quiet, surgical attention. She wasn't confused. She was confident. That much was clear from the way she left that receipt where anyone could find it. Not careless, confident I wouldn't question her. But that confidence was misplaced, because she didn't marry someone stupid, and I just started paying attention. There's a moment when suspicion hardens into something else. Not panic, not anger, but a kind of cold focus. That's where I lived for the next few days. No apps. No spyware. No late-night tailing. Just discipline. People forget how revealing the ordinary is. They hide lies in silence, but the truth leaks out in the details: scent, timing, tone. Her text continued like nothing had changed. Casual. Warm. Measured. Hope the house feels okay without me. Or, made it to the condo. Might light some candles and read tonight. Miss our routines. She used emojis again, not overdone, just enough to seem genuine. The illusion of intimacy. But illusions don't hold up to scrutiny. I started keeping track. Not in a journal. That's too dramatic. I used a spreadsheet. Dates. Times. Messages. Locations. Not to trap her, not yet, but to observe patterns. Truth has consistency. Lies leave fingerprints. On Friday, she said she was at the condo doing laundry. An hour later I drove past. Lights off. No car in the driveway. A pile of unopened mail sat on the stoop, one envelope fluttering in the breeze. That night she posted an Instagram story, a glass of wine on a coffee table, toes visible, candles lit. It could have been the condo. But the background music playing in the clip, a jazz track, was the same one that played on the 7th floor lounge at Hotel Franklin. I'd called earlier pretending to ask about event hosting. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't catch it. But I had the receipt. I knew the floor. The playlist matched. The next morning, she returned to the house briefly. She brought back some winter clothes, a few cookbooks, and one of our framed pictures, the one from Vermont with the two of us wrapped in a scarf on the bridge. Odd thing to need during a pause. We made coffee, talked like friends. Her smile was bright, her hair curled. The scent of her conditioner carried something new beneath it, something I didn't recognize but had smelled once already, faintly, in her gym bag. I hugged her before she left. I let myself, and that's when I smelled it again, stronger. Men's cologne. Not department store. Not generic. Not mine. When she drove off, I went to the laundry room, opened her gym bag, and went through it with clinical precision. Inside, leggings, a hoodie that didn't belong to me, or her, based on the sizing, and a dry cleaning receipt folded neatly between a hairbrush and her lip balm. The ticket listed a men's dress shirt. Starch, press, collar treatment. Her name was on the receipt. She had dropped it off. She hadn't even bothered to remove it. The details were piling up, and with them, my restraint stretched thinner. And yet, through all of it, her tone grew warmer, more affectionate, like absence was making her heart fonder. Or maybe guilt was dressing itself in tenderness. She texted, "I miss waking up beside you. It's strange being away. Maybe this time apart is reminding me of how much you mean to me." That text arrived while I stared at the dry cleaning receipt. I didn't reply. Instead, I backed up everything. Took photos. Emailed them to an encrypted folder. One copy printed, sealed in an envelope, hidden in my office drawer. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was preparing for the next stage. Because it wasn't just the lies that bothered me. It was the performance. The curated pauses in her messages. The tiny flourishes in her speech, designed to maintain the illusion that we were still partners in something meaningful. She wanted me calm, distracted, hopeful, and I let her believe I was. But every affectionate message she sent felt like a magician smiling while palming the trick behind their back. And I'd finally decided I wasn't going to be cut open quietly. I wasn't broken. I was documenting. The lobby at Hotel Franklin smelled like expensive linen and curated distraction. I wore a blazer I hadn't touched in months and gave a name that wasn't mine. "I believe I left a watch here last weekend," I said, placing just enough doubt in my tone to sound plausible. "Room 708, I think. My girlfriend checked in." The clerk smiled politely, typing without looking up. "Mr. Morgan, right?" I nodded slowly. Let her confirm it. "Yes, she's here often. Lovely couple. I'll check with housekeeping to see if anything was logged. Same suite every time. They like consistency." I barely heard the rest. My heart was a drum, but my face stayed still. "Do you remember if she was here last Thursday?" I asked, pretending not to care much about the answer. "Thursday?" The clerk thought for a moment, then nodded. "Yes. Mr. Carter checked in with her that evening. We had a jazz trio in the lounge. I remember because she complimented the singer, Carter." My jaw didn't move. I thanked her, gave a false number to call in case the watch turned up, and walked out into the crisp morning air. Carter was her co-worker. Married. I'd met him once at a holiday party. Kind eyes, soft laugh, wore those novelty socks that people pretend are personality. Emily had called him harmless. Just a numbers guy with a dad bod. Apparently, Harmless now rented suite 708 by the hour. I sat in my car across the street and tried to feel something. Fury, betrayal, sadness. But all I felt was precision. It wasn't just cheating. It was choreography. She hadn't stumbled into an affair. She'd engineered an exit. Back home, I searched her desk drawer. Not the obvious one. The bottom one. Tucked beneath her old notebooks and some work reports was a folder labeled in tidy black ink. Taylor LLC, pre-launch documents. Inside, financial projections, branding mock-ups, a copy of a lease proposal for a co-working space. The creation date on the Word doc, 3 weeks before she asked for the pause. Her email headers showed exchanges with a web designer and a business coach. She'd used our shared account to pay the deposit. I flipped through the pages with numb fingers. Her messaging was full of lines like, "Ready to build something of my own," and "It's time to do this on my terms." This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a woman finding herself. This was preparation. A clean break cloaked in calm language and faux introspection. She hadn't left to think. She left to rebrand. And she'd used our resources, our money, our time, our shared silence, to stage her soft launch. Later that evening, I watched her new LLC website go live. Taylor's Strategy Group, Empowerment Through Ownership. Polished, modern, smiling photos, professional bios. She'd written a short blog post titled, "Sometimes the brave thing is the quiet exit." I almost laughed. She wasn't just walking away, she was narrating it, turning our disintegration into content. At 9:34 p.m., she texted me again. "Hey, I've been thinking about you all day. This space is painful, but I believe we'll both come out stronger." I stared at the screen, then opened my camera roll. I took a photo of her blog post, the dry cleaning receipt, and the hotel bill, arranged neatly on the kitchen table. I didn't send it. Not yet. Because now I knew the scope. It wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. Of time, of truth, of shared trust repackaged as her narrative of self-discovery. And it was almost admirable, in its ruthlessness. But she underestimated one thing. I still held the story she hadn't written. And I knew exactly how to finish it. The next morning, I called my attorney. Not the one who helped with the house closing or the will updates. This was a different kind of lawyer. Quiet. Expensive. The kind who answers on the second ring and doesn't ask too many questions before he starts talking in options and protections. I explained the situation in precise, clinical terms. Unexplained financial activity, a possible misuse of marital assets, a business venture established without joint consent, and a suspected affair with a colleague that could involve professional misconduct. He didn't flinch. "Prenup still in force?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Then we have leverage." I'd almost forgotten about the clause. We'd added it as an afterthought before the wedding, a freeze clause for joint access in the event of fraud or financial misrepresentation. It had sounded like a formality back then, just ink and reassurance. Now it was a weapon. He filed the activation notice within 24 hours. It locked down our shared accounts, paused access to liquid assets, and placed a hold on any joint disbursements tied to business ventures. In short, her credit card stopped working. That same day, I opened new accounts under my name alone, rerouted my paycheck, redirected the portfolio access. Everything legal. Everything documented. I made no dramatic moves, no angry texts, no calls, just cold paperwork and digital silence. Next, I cataloged the receipts, the website screenshots, the business documents she'd printed using our home printer. I had bank statements showing charges tied to her startup, ads, design fees, even a deposit for a client lunch billed on our joint card. I photographed everything, logged dates, annotated discrepancies. I printed it all and took it to a notary. One sealed envelope went into my safe, another into my lawyer's hands. I wasn't just reacting. I was creating a timeline. Facts, not feelings. That Friday, at exactly 3:08 p.m., I received a message. "Hey, my card isn't working. Can you check if something's up with the bank?" I stared at her name on the screen for a long moment. Then I opened my camera app, took a photo of our prenup, flipped to Section 7, and sent it with a single line beneath. Section 7, Fraud Protection Activation. It was the first time I'd answered her directly in days. She didn't reply. That evening, I drove to the condo. She wasn't there. Her laptop was open on the kitchen island, a sticky note pressed onto the lid. "Client call at 5, don't forget." I opened the files she'd left minimized. Her branding package. Marketing strategy. A client list pulled from a spreadsheet titled Legacy Leads, Old Accounts. I recognized some of the names. They were her employer's clients. That would matter later. I took photos. Closed the laptop. Left everything untouched. That weekend, she called twice. Left one voicemail. Upbeat but slightly too casual. "Hey, I know you're probably busy, but I think we should talk soon. Things are getting a little tangled with the bank. Maybe we can sit down next week and figure out a reset? I'm around." I didn't call back. I wasn't angry. I was done giving her the courtesy of explanations. Because at some point, what you're dealing with stops being a person and starts becoming a liability. She had rehearsed her exit like a professional, staged it in carefully lit rooms and branded blogs. But she forgot something critical. Exits have consequences, especially when you try to rewrite the story mid-scene and expect the other actor to play along. And I had just stepped off script. She came back to the house on a Wednesday. No warning, no call. Just the sound of keys in the lock and the click of the door swinging open like nothing had ever happened. I was at the kitchen table with my laptop open, papers stacked in precise columns. She walked in holding a reusable shopping bag, humming lightly under her breath. When she saw me, She smiled like it was still her home. Like I was still her husband. "Hey, stranger," she said, setting the bag down. "I thought I'd stop by and grab a few more things. Maybe catch you for a minute." Her voice was light, warm, practiced. I closed the laptop slowly, stood, looked at her in the doorway, standing in jeans and a slate gray sweater she used to wear when she wanted to appear soft, approachable. She looked around, as if measuring how much of her life still lingered in this space. Then I nodded toward the chair across from mine. "Sit down." Her smile faltered just slightly, but she obliged. She crossed her legs the way she always did when trying to seem relaxed but in control. "Okay," she said, almost teasing. "You're being formal." I slid a folder across the table. My hand didn't shake. "These are confirmations from Hotel Franklin. Multiple dates. Room 708 billed to my card." She blinked, just once. "What is this?" I didn't respond. I slid the next sheet, a printed itinerary showing her business expenses pulled from our joint account. "These are payments for your LLC launch, graphic design, web hosting, ad spend, all from shared funds." She opened her mouth. I kept going. "This one," I said, tapping the third page, "is a copy of the deed amendment. The one where you forged my signature to transfer partial home equity to the business as collateral. I've had it examined. Your handwriting. Your notary wasn't real." The silence stretched. She stared at the papers like they were written in another language. "I didn't," she began, then stopped. I watched her eyes flick from document to document, trying to calculate what she could still spin, still salvage. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," she finally said, her voice softening, shifting into the tone she used when negotiating down tension. "I didn't think it would spiral like this. I was just trying to find a way forward." "You called it a pause," I said, my voice low and calm. "But you were already in rehearsal for the next act." She swallowed hard. "I should have told you." "You didn't just lie," I said. "You prepared a story. You controlled the timing to suit your plan. You moved funds. You used me as your alibi while you built your exit strategy." Her shoulders sagged. The performance cracked. "I didn't know how to leave," she whispered. "I thought I'd figure it out along the way." "You figured it out," I said. "Now you'll face it." I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out the envelope. Heavy. Legal grade. My lawyer's mark in the corner. I placed it on the table and slid it toward her. She didn't touch it. "Divorce?" she asked, though it wasn't a question. I nodded. "No negotiations outside of counsel. All assets frozen. Documentation already filed." She didn't cry. She didn't beg. But I saw something in her face collapse. The scaffolding of control she'd built so carefully over the past few weeks. "You didn't have to do it like this," she said, almost to herself. "You could have talked to me." "I did," I said. "You weren't listening." She stood up slowly, her hands clenched. Her eyes darted around the room, at the coffee machine, the framed photo of us in Prague, the small glass sculpture we bought in Charleston. She looked like a stranger in a museum of her former life. When she walked out, she didn't say goodbye. I sat back down, listened to the door close, felt the silence fall. No rage, no vindication, just gravity. But I hadn't lost control. I'd reclaimed it. And now, all that was left was the fallout. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived from her employer's legal department. Hand-delivered, no postage, no prior notice. My name printed cleanly across the front. I opened it carefully. Inside, a single-page letter on crisp letterhead. "Dear Mr. Morgan, we are conducting an internal compliance review related to potential conflict of interest disclosures and unauthorized use of proprietary materials. Your cooperation may be requested as part of this confidential process." There was no signature, just a case file number and a contact email. I sat down, the weight of it settling like dust over everything. Her job, the one she was always pivoting from, wasn't just a background detail in our story. It was central to the mess she'd made. Apparently, someone had noticed. I forwarded the letter to my attorney. Within hours, he called me back. His tone was different this time, more alert. "They're coming at this hard," he said. "Someone internally flagged her LLC. She used their internal client data to build her new firm. That's theft. Possibly breach of contract. Maybe more." I asked him who had filed the complaint. He was quiet for a moment. "Carter's wife." That silence in my chest broke like dry wood. Carter, the harmless numbers guy. The man she said didn't matter? Turns out his wife had access to his email. She found messages between him and Emily. Conference room calendar blocks that didn't add up. Photos buried in a deleted folder. But the real damage came from what Emily had taken with her: lead lists, email templates, client strategies, intellectual property. Her soft launch had been built on stolen scaffolding. Now it was collapsing. By Friday, Emily was placed on administrative leave pending review. Her work accounts were frozen, her internal profile removed from the firm directory. The LLC's business bank account was also frozen, flagged for investigation tied to her employer's compliance breach. That co-working space she'd leased? Locked. Her name removed from the tenant registry before the ink had dried on the welcome plaque. And Carter? Suspended. His wife had gone scorched earth. She submitted everything: the messages, the travel receipts, the calendar entries, to HR, then filed for separation and took their 2 sons to her sister's place in Maine. Emily tried to do damage control. She messaged mutual friends. "There's a lot of confusion right now. Things are being exaggerated." She posted online vague affirmations about growth, setbacks, resilience. But the silence from her circle was louder than any comment thread. 2 couples blocked her outright. Another friend, her oldest from grad school, quietly removed every tagged photo of the 2 of them from her social accounts. People didn't pick sides. They just vanished. Then came the housing stipend, the final domino. Her upscale rental was partially subsidized by her company's executive relocation policy. With her leave status under review, the stipend evaporated. Eviction wasn't immediate, but the writing was on the marble kitchen backsplash. And finally, the text: "They're destroying my career. Please, can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my office drawer, took out the folder she left behind. Taylor LLC, pre-launch documents. Still thick with her optimism, her strategies, her quiet confidence. I crossed out the word "pause" on the label in heavy black pen, then wrote one word beneath it: "End."